Emma and Jake had always been the kind of couple that people admired. They had been together for 10 years, through ups and downs, yet their bond remained strong. Their love wasn't just about grand gestures. It was in the little things. The way Jake always made her coffee just right in the morning, how Emma left him handwritten notes in his lunchbox, the way they could sit in comfortable silence and still feel completely connected. They were best friends before anything else, and that was the foundation of their marriage. Then came Ryan. Ryan was the kind of man who exuded confidence without trying. He was charming in a way that made people want to be around him, and he had a reputation, one that followed him into every office he worked in. Women fell for him easily, and he never denied himself the pleasure of attention. He thrived on it. He knew the right words to say, the perfect moments to compliment, and the subtle ways to make someone feel special without making it obvious. Emma had heard about him before she ever spoke to him. The women at work shared stories, laughing, but also warning. Ryan is trouble. He's the kind of guy who doesn't care if you're married. He'll push boundaries just to see if he can. She had laughed at the stories, shaking her head. She wasn't worried. She was happily married, and a man like Ryan held no power over her. At first, he was nothing more than a friendly coworker. He'd greet her every morning with a charming smile, make small talk in the break room, and occasionally compliment her work ethic. It was harmless. He did it with everyone. But then, his attention started to linger. He'd find excuses to be around her, offering to help with projects, sitting next to her during meetings. His compliments shifted from professional to personal. "I don't know how your husband lets you leave the house. If I had a wife like you, I'd never let you out of my sight." She laughed it off, brushing it away as nothing more than his usual charm. She told herself it didn't mean anything. After all, she knew where her heart belonged. But there was something about the way he looked at her, something in the way he spoke, that made her feel a flicker of something she couldn't quite define. Jake noticed the change before she did. He noticed the way she hesitated before mentioning Ryan's name, how she seemed distracted after work, how she checked her phone just a little more often. One night, as they lay in bed, he turned to her and said, "That guy at your office, Ryan. He watches you like he's waiting for something." She scoffed. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" His voice was calm, but there was something in his eyes that unsettled her. "Emma, I know how men like him operate. Just be careful." She dismissed it. She was in control. She loved Jake, and that was all that mattered. But Ryan was persistent. He had a way of making her feel seen in a way that was dangerously intoxicating. On the days she and Jake argued, about finances, about work stress, about the everyday things that wore on a marriage, Ryan was there with a well-timed compliment, with an understanding smile, with words that made her feel like she wasn't just a wife or an employee, but a woman who deserved more. One evening, after an exhausting day, she found herself confiding in Ryan. It wasn't planned. It just happened. He listened, nodding at the right moments, offering sympathy. And then he said the words that lodged themselves in her chest. "You deserve to be with someone who really appreciates you." The implication was clear. For the first time, she hesitated. She let herself imagine, just for a second, what it would be like to be someone Ryan pursued. And that second of hesitation was enough. She pulled away before anything happened, but the damage was done. That night, she went home to Jake and told him everything. She expected anger, maybe even betrayal, but instead, he just looked at her with quiet sadness and asked, "Do you still love me?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yes, always." "Then we fix this." It wasn't easy. Trust once shaken isn't easily restored. Emma cut ties with Ryan, avoided his gaze, ignored his attempts to rekindle what had never fully begun. Ryan moved on quickly. He always did. But Emma and Jake had work to do. They had to rebuild, to remind themselves why they chose each other in the first place. Because a marriage doesn't fall apart because of one man. It falls apart when two people stop choosing each other. And Emma realized that no matter how tempting the distraction, No matter how charming the words, Jake was the only choice she ever wanted to make.